Hi everyone. Today's video is going to be just a brief, quick explanation of the different type of chainsaw chains, specifically the cutters. Stick around. Hey everybody, welcome to Good Day Farm. My name is Travis, and like the introduction said, today's video is going to be a pretty quick and just brief explanation of the different type of chainsaw chains, specifically the cutters. I'm not going to get real deep into, there's a lot of different types of chains, and then every manufacturer seems to have their own little, twist on what probably is similar to another manufacturer's chain. But in my opinion, there's basically three styles of cutters. There is a fourth one that I don't see a whole lot, and it's really not too much different than one of the other ones. So we're going to just go with three, and I'll just do a quick explanation of what those are, and hopefully that'll help some of you that may be seeing a lot of different terminology and kind of wondering, well, what's that chain? Is that good for what I'm doing? Should I get that? And so on and so forth. I am doing this video based off of a viewer suggestion. A couple of you guys actually in one of my other videos suggested that I do a video like this. So I hope this will answer your questions. I hope you see this, and we'll just get right into it. I would like to say real quick, if you like these types of videos, the instructional or how-to or explanation review, kind of what a lot of my videos are like, do me a favor. If this is your first time here, hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell notification so you don't miss any other videos like this. And, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, give me a thumbs down. But most of all, what I really appreciate is comment. So if there's a pointer or a tip or something I missed or something you think I should have hit on better, or just think I did wrong, just let me know. I'm always open to conversation and debates and learning. I have an open mind. I hope you will too. And, that way we can all learn from each other. So if you see something that I'm doing wrong, or something you think I should have talked a little more on, or if you just think I did a great job, whatever, use the comment section. That's what it's there for. And I really enjoy that interaction that opens up for us to have here in the community and on this channel. So get all that out of the way, and let's just get to the nuts and bolts of what the video is about today. So in my opinion, there's basically three styles of chainsaw chains when we're talking about the cutters. So you have a semi-chisel, a full chisel, and then in the full chisel realm, there is also there's round ground and square ground. And then there are carbide cutters. There are, job specific types of, demolition chains and rescue chains and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into those. They're a whole different animal. What I will talk about are just what I would consider your standard chains. And they can kind of be lumped into two categories, your semi-chisel and your full chisel. And then, like I said, in the full chisel, you have a square and a round. I'm not going to talk about the safety chains or anti-kickback or any of that kind of stuff, because that really, in my opinion, isn't about the cutter style. So what's the difference in the cutters? So the main thing you need to know is full chisel and semi-chisel is the main differences. And what that is the way the tooth, the cutter is shaped. A full chisel will be flat on the top and then come down at a perfect 90-degree for the side plate or side of the cutter. It's more like an L, 90-degree. A semi-chisel, that would be where that edge is rounded, like this. So it comes flat across the top, and then it rounds down to the side plate, and then quite noticeably it'll look like a question mark the way it comes down if you look at the back side of the cutter. And so that's the main difference. And I've got a couple here I'm going to show you real quick, so hold on. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the back side of a cutter on a full chisel chain. And if you can see what I was talking about when I was explaining it, you got the flat part of the top, and then it comes down at a 90, creating that L, sharp, square, very square edge there. What that translates to on the front of the cutter is a very sharp point. My camera's going to lose focus, of course. But anyhow, right in there, it's just so hard. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to photograph your chainsaw teeth. It's really difficult to do in a basic shop setting like this. But anyhow, you can still see the side plate straight down, the top plate straight across, and then that creates a very fine point right there. Now this is a full chisel round ground. Losing focus. And all that means is that's the way it's filed here. A round file is used. It creates an edge on the inside there, and up under the cutter tooth is the most important edge. See where it's shiny there? And so all that, kind of creates this one cutting edge. So this point pierces the wood. This top part works like the chisel to slice away the wood, and this side plate helps shear it off also. And then as you file back, this area is what they refer to as the gullet. If you're filing properly with your round file, it will just keep removing. You always want that kind of half moon. It's easier to see from this side. Kind of circular shape there. And so if you're filing properly, your round file will just always create that kind of gullet shape there, and you're good to go. So this is an old, just an old chain that I had. I don't use the semi-chisel a whole lot anymore, so it's just an old one I had laying around. It's pretty dirty and gummed up, but you still get the point. You get the gist of the cutter. So what it is this again is from the back side of the cutter. Sorry. And you can see how that's rounded here instead of a 90 degree. And then here from the front side, definitely from the side here, see how that's rounded over right here? Where on the full chisel, that would have been a very distinct 90 degree. And then what this creates is, or eliminates, if you will, is up in here, if I can stay on camera, is that point that we had on the full chisel. So still files the same way, still round file, and like I said, this is a bad example because the chain's dull. Still creates, when filed properly, you'll have a gullet back here. The difference is since you don't have that sharp point up there, it's not going to pierce or cut the wood as quickly or as sharply, if that's a way to describe that, but it still will get the job done. And what this does is all that up in there will have an edge on it when you file it. And so this will actually hold up longer because there is no point to wear off or break off. And so this will stay sharper longer than a full chisel. And then real quick, this is also a full chisel, as you can tell by how 90 degree, this is the back side of the cutter, but how that's a flat top, flat side, comes straight down. That's a full chisel. Now this chain is what they call square ground, and losing the focus here. So as you can notice on the inside there, now this is a new chain, I haven't grounded or filed it yet. This is factory, but gives you an idea of what it should look like. So there's no roundedness to the gullet. If you look to the side, the gullet, if you will, just comes straight down. Well, not straight down, it's actually angled back a little bit, but it comes straight down. And then underneath that shelf, that would be your gullet. As you file this tooth back, you remove this lower portion also with a hand file, but we're not talking about that today. So anyhow, if you can see on this, if it'll focus, see there's like an inside line there from that point down to kind of the inside corner of the tooth. So what this creates is that upper plate up here still is your chisel. It's got a good edge on it, nice and sharp. You've got your sharp point, your sharp side plate, and there's no roundedness inside there. So you have like two distinct chisels, if you will, attacking your wood. There's nothing rounded off. So it's a much more, it's a very sharp chain, sharper than a full chisel round ground. Some people say more aggressive, however you want to terminology you want to use, but that's the gist of it. Okay, so you also have what will be referred to as the complement of the chain, and that's the sequence of the cutters. So you have what is called full comp or full complement. That's the same thing, and then you have full skip and half skip. Now, I don't have a half skip chain here. I've never used one. I don't really know what the benefits of that would be over a full skip, but the difference between a full comp and a full skip is the way the cutter tooths are put in sequence in the chain. So hopefully you can see this here. So what you have here is a cutter every other drive length, or on every drive length, if you will, however you want to count that. So you got a driver, a link, a driver, cutter, driver, link, driver, cutter, and so on. And so basically you just have one gap in between every tooth. That's a full complement chain. So it's cutter, one, just link, cutter, link, cutter, link. On a full skip, it just skips that pattern. So let me straighten my chain out here for you. So you still have your cutter, and then you got a link, link, opposite cutter, link, link, back to the opposite cutter. And that's what they call a full skip. My understanding of a half skip would be in between the two. So you would have, say, cutter, link, link, cutter, link, cutter, link, link, cutter, so on and so forth. So you would have, so this chain has half as many teeth as a full comp, and then a half skip is in between there. So it's going to have, half more, if you will. Anyhow, so that's the difference in the complements of the chain. You're going to hear all kinds of different theories and reasons for running one over the other. I really think it comes down to motor size, CCs, what your saw can handle, and really type of wood. I definitely think if I was in really big wood, so the point, sorry, I get ahead of myself. The point, the way I understand it, of a skip chain is to, people say, to help clear out the wood chips. Gives more room between cutters so they can throw the chips out, which helps clear out the kerf and doesn't cause your saw to bog down. I would take that a step further, and I'm no engineer, I'm no technician on this stuff, I don't know, but I would also think, since you have less cutter teeth actively cutting while it's in the wood, it's a little less work for the saw to get accomplish the task. So not only is there more room for the wood chips to be pulled out, but then there's less cutting going on. So what's that mean? I feel like, and I don't have any timed scientific data for this, but I feel like a full skip chain is not going to cut as fast as a full comp chain because it has less cutter teeth, so it's going to take longer to make that cut. But at the same time, it's not going to work the saw as hard to accomplish the cut. So it's a trade-off, I think for most people like me, for firewood cutting, like I said, once in a while, maybe twice, 3 times a year, I get into some really big wood blowdowns, stuff like that are, say, 4 foot around. I still run the full comp on that. I've never had an issue. I've never had the kerf, if you will, as I'm cutting, like fill up with chips and bog my saw down. My saw just rips right through it. And a lot of people get things confused. They'll say, what's the difference between a full skip and a full chisel? Well, the 2 different chains. Chisel is the cutter style, and skip is the chain design, links and drivers. So, or not driver, but cutter links. So, to wrap up here, what are the differences and what are the pros and cons, if you will? What are the advantages? What are the points of these different types of cutter heads? So, let's start at the top, or in my opinion, the top. Full chisel, square ground, in my opinion, is the best design for a cutter for a chainsaw chain, commercially available. There may be others, custom, whatever, but commercially available, best design out there. It's super sharp, and in my opinion, it holds its edge actually a pretty long time. There are production cutters out west that use this chain, and they can go all day sometimes without having to change chains or anything like that. So as long as you're in clean wood, and you're not hitting the ground, things like that, it'll really hold its edge, and it's super, super sharp. And then you couple that with a big power head, and you can set the depth gauges, again, this is my opinion, a little bit lower, so it's a little more aggressive, which what that means, when the depth gauge is lower, it's going to take a bigger chip, which you got to be careful. You don't want to do that on a smaller CC saw because it's going to bog it down or work it really hard, and they're not designed for that. But the bigger power heads can handle it, and so you're hogging out more wood, and they'll cut faster. They cut faster anyhow, and there's all kinds of tests on that where they put a round filed against the square ground, and the square is always faster. So that to me is the best design, best cutter you can have. It's pretty much 90% of what I run, and I cut firewood, and I'm cutting trees on the ground, and it doesn't matter. So it works for me. Next would be just full chisel round filed. Very sharp chain again, very fast cutter, and it's really popular, and I would say very common, way more common than the square ground because it's easier to file and sharpen than a square ground. And that's probably the only reason. If more people understood how to do their square ground chains, how to hand file them, or how to set up to do it, or had somewhere where they could take it, I think you would see more people running square ground. I think the only reason round is more popular is simply because it's easier to sharpen, and it's more readily accessible. You know, anybody can go out and buy a round file, and pick it up fairly quick. There's all kinds of guides and accessories if you don't pick it up quick to help you pick it up. And you can go to just about any chainsaw shop or lawnmower shop, small engine shop in the country, and they can sharpen that chain. Whether they do a good job or not, that's up to that shop, but they have the capabilities. And that's not true with the square ground. So that's a very popular style chain, you know, full chisel. Then the next would be semi-chisel. And I want to say that's a pretty popular one too. Like I said, I don't run it, but I do know it's out there, and you know, quote unquote, it's on homeowner saws. I hate that terminology. I know a lot of people like it. It tends to hold up better in dirtier conditions. So if you're bucking a lot of firewood or wood that's been drugged through the dirt or mud or through a pasture or whatever, you know, been yarded in, it tends to be a better option for most guys. It'll hold up a little bit longer because it doesn't have that point to wear off. And but then it's basically the same thing to sharpen. It's a round file, easy to sharpen, and so it's just like the full chisel round file. Common chain, you know, easy to deal with. It does cut a little bit slower than a full chisel, and that, you know, only thing I can tell you on that, I don't have numbers here, but is try each and see which one works best for you. I would say that the semi-chisel probably in your smaller CC saws would perform well. And keeping the depth gauge, you know, keeping your depth gauge set pretty high, so you're not hogging out a big chunk every time it rotates. You know, I think it would do really well. It would be slow compared to, you know, other saws and other setups, but I think it would be fine. I just, you know, I run bigger power heads. I get into bigger wood every now and then, and I like to cut fast. I don't like to spend all day bucking my firewood, so I just do things a little different. But that said, I don't think there's any right or wrong way. They're all really good, and I encourage everyone, play around with them, experiment, try different types of cutting chains, and go from there. I'm going to wrap that up right there. Anyhow, that hopefully that explains the basics of chainsaw cutters. Like I said, to me, there's three. I know there's more. There is a what they call a chipper that's very, very, very similar to the semi-chisel. And then, of course, you know, there's the carbides and all that kind of stuff. So, but you're just basic chains that if you walk into your saw shop or your hardware store, that you're going to find are going to be semi-chisel and full chisel. And then depending on where you're at or your dealership, you may be able to get square ground in the full chisel. They don't make a square ground for semi-chisel. It would be pointless, obviously, if you saw how the design of the cutter is, that you need that square chisel shape of the cutter to get that point. And that's what square ground's all about. I have a lot of videos on square ground and square filing techniques. If you guys want to check those out, you know, look through my playlist or just look through my videos. I'm just now starting to do some of these videos about chain explanation and the differences. So hopefully that answers any questions that any of you guys may have. And thanks for the suggestions to make this video. I really appreciate that, you guys. And you know, keep them coming. More suggestions be great. You know, did I miss something? Do you want me to cover something a little more in depth? So on and so forth. Use the comments down below. That's a really great tool. It's about the only tool that YouTube gives us for communicating and having, you know, a conversation with one another. So let's use it. With that, I'm going to sign off. Thanks for watching the video, you guys. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button if it's your first time here. Hit the little bell so that you don't miss any other of these. And let me know what you think. I enjoy making these videos, and I want to keep making them for you guys. So if you like them, I will. And we'll just go from there. Thanks a lot, everyone, and have a good day. Bye now.